How's it going, my fellow shiny Pokemon? Shiny Snorlax here, bringing you guys a Pokemon Showdown and new fight, so let's get started. I bring out my Kangaskhan, and opponent brings out its Pikachu. Opponent switches out into Alamomola, and I go for a fake out just to get some nice flinch damage. I go for a 10, and dude's pretty pissed off because I have 10 on the timer on him, and the Alamomola goes for a Toxic. I switch out into my Electros, just try to kill this thing fast. Opponent goes for a Protect, but fails. And opponent goes for another Protect, and I go for a Drain Punch, just in case if he switched out into a Sandshrew or Pikachu. Opponent goes for a Toxic, misses. I go for a Drain Punch, and barely do anything. Opponent goes for another Toxic, and I go for another Drain Punch. Opponent decides to go for a Wish, and I go for a Drain Punch. The opponent decides to go for a Toxic, and I go for another Drain Punch. And the Alamomola heals up from the Wish. I switch out into my Musharuna just to heal up the Toxics. Opponent goes for a Waterfall, and barely does anything to my Musharuna. Opponent switches out into a Sandshrew, and I go for a Heal Bell. Opponent goes for an X-Scissor, takes me down to half, and I go for a Psychic and take out the Sandshrew. Opponent brings out a Jinx, and opponent goes for a Shadow Ball, and I go for a Thunder Wave just to slow it down. I go for a Moonlight, just to scout out a bit, and opponent goes for another Shadow Ball. And I switch out into my Kangaskhan, and the opponent switches out into its Altaria. I go for a Fake Out to get some nice flinch damage, and the Altaria is flinched. And I go for a Return. Opponent goes for a Heal Bell, and gets some of his team members healed up and shit. Opponent switches out to Alamomola, and I go for a 10, just to get some nice damage. I switch out into my Electros, and the opponent goes for a Wish. Opponent goes for a Toxic on my Electros, and I go for a Drain Punch, just in case if he switched out to his Pikachu. I switch out and go into my Musharuna, and the opponent goes for a Protect. Opponent goes for a Waterfall, and I go for a Moonlight, just to heal myself up a bit. Opponent switches out into a Ursaring, and I go for a Heal Bell. The Ursaring's Flame Orb is activated, and I switch out into Mega Bite to take the hit. Opponent goes for a Facade, almost kills me, but Ursaring gets hit from the rough skin and its flame and the burn. I go for an Earthquake just to put in some damage. Opponent goes for another Facade and gets hit from the rough skin, and now it's down to red from the burn. I switch out to my Kangaskhan, and the opponent switches out into the Alamomola, and I'll go for Fake Outs just to get in some nice flinch damage. I go for a Return, and I get a critical hit, which mattered a lot. And opponent goes for another Waterfall. Opponent goes for a Protect, and I go for another Return, basically leaving Kangaskhan in as Death Fodder. I go for a Return, and I die from my Life Orb. Opponent goes for a Wish, and I switch out onto my Artillery, and opponent goes for a Protect, and I go for an Energy Ball. And the opponent gets healed up. Opponent switches out into Jinx, and I go for an Energy Ball and do about half. Opponent goes for an Energy Ball, and it almost killed me, but I survive. I go for an energy ball and take out the Jinx. Opponent brings out Pikachu and goes for an extreme speed and takes out my artillery. And I bring out my Jinx, and opponent brings out an Alamomola. I predicted switch, so I went for a psychic. Opponent goes for a protect, and I go for another psychic because I am choice scarfed. I go for another psychic, almost kill the Alamomola. Opponent goes for a wish, and opponent goes for a protect, and I go for a psychic. And opponent heals up from the wish and switches out into the Altaria. I go for a psychic and take out the Altaria. Opponent switches out, back out into Alamomola, and I go for a psychic and get a critical hit, which mattered a lot. Alright, and dude's getting pretty pissed off, and I go for a psychic and take out the Air Ring. And opponent switches out into Pikachu. He goes for an extreme speed, almost kills me, but I go for a psychic and take out the Pikachu. That was a pretty good fight in my opinion. So yeah, like, favorite, and subscribe to become a shiny Pokemon, and I'll see you all next time.